The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondel. Tonight, we have a great actress with us, Valerie Vaile. She's been seen in New Amsterdam on the TV series New Amsterdam, also The X List, and she's going to be seen in God's Not Dead, In God We Trust, which comes out in theaters on September 12th. So please welcome to the show, Miss Valerie Vaile. How you doing, Valerie?
I'm good. Hi, Dave.
Hi. Well, looking at your resume, pretty impressive resume. And, I guess we'll start with this. Where did you get the love of acting and where did that start? And I saw you also started in theater as well, right?
I did. Yeah, I started in theater growing up and I just always loved like the creation of characters and the imagination that it required.
So, when did that start? Were you in high school? Did you start acting in like drama or, guess where did the love of acting come?
I think I was in like sixth grade and we had a bicentennial for our town, the little town I'm from, Gill, Mass. Woohoo! Shout out to
Nice.
Gill, Mass. And we had this recreation of how the town started. And that was my first time I ever acted. And I just caught the bug.
Wow. Okay. So it started. So it was basically how your town was created. So it was written by somebody locally, I would imagine.
Yes. And it had a lot to do with this like music festival. And I got to wear all this tie dye. And I remember I was just like totally hooked because it was in the 60s. That the town was, really like put on the map kind of with this music festival. So that whole history piece and getting to like act out the people that were from town and they got the biggest kick out of it. So it just left a mark on me.
So when you started doing that, so we got into more like, school type productions and that kind of led to bigger and better things.
Yes, I was in black comedy in high school at the high school I went to, which is a hilarious play where the lights are off the whole time. That's why it's called black comedy.
Oh, really?
And so character.
So you're listening to the sound of the actors, and do you have sound? Was there sound effects too, or just the voices?
Well, so the lights are on for the audience, but the actors are like they're in the dark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a hilarious show. So that was really, that hooked me too, because it was so fun. And the comedy is always fun with a live audience because you really get the energy and.
No, am I wrong on this? But you studied at the Groundlings, correct?
I did when I lived in Los Angeles. Yes, I studied at the Groundlings. Yep.
So how was that? The Groundlings, you hear about, there's Upright Citizens Brigade, there's the Groundlings, there's Second City, there's like SAC Comedy Lab. There's a lot of improv. Great improv, schools out there. And so, but I don't know, I think I'm correct in this, but they're all kind of different. There's like long form, short form. So try to tell me a little bit about, like improv and the difference between, Groundlings and like Second City.
Yeah. So I did Groundlings and I had the greatest time. I had so much fun. A lot of it's short form. A lot of it's focused on like, when you're in a scene, it's like someone throws you a ball, you say yes, like you catch that ball and you like run with it. So it really helped me in terms of like being in scripted scenes to really just stay in the moment and like really receive whatever's being thrown at me, basically.
Well, there's a lot of people that I think that have never been in improv. I don't think they realize how great a training improv really is for all forms of acting, whether it's TV, film, theater, but, no matter what kind of, I guess medium you're in, it's sometimes you got to pivot, even if even if you can say cut and go to the next scene, if that scene is really working and somebody either messes a line up or, sometimes you have to really kind of try to bring that scene back if you can. So, do you find that to be true, have that background, the improv background, that it helps you as an actress?
Oh my gosh, 100%. And like being like TV shows that I've been on, right? I learn my lines and I'm like so into my lines and sometimes they're hard, like if there's medical dialogue and stuff, but you have to be so open when you show up to set because sometimes everything gets changed like right there. So if you really are coming to it with that like Groundlings training of like whatever gets thrown at me, I'm going to catch it and I'm going to run with it. Like, I think it helps. It really helps in the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And then New Amsterdam, when you were on that, you played a medical, I think an anesthesiologist, if I'm not mistaken. And, and when you're in a scene like that, talk to our listeners about when you do a TV series like that. Cause I would imagine that a TV series, I mean, they try to churn out a lot of episodes in a season. So I think they're a little more on a timeline than maybe a film might be, where they're months out before they cast it and before they actually have principal photography, where you have time maybe to learn your lines and see the script for a long time. And is TV a lot quicker? You don't have as much time to learn your lines, and how is the rehearsal time? So talk about being on, because you've been on several TV series, network TV series. So talk about the process of acting in that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely New Amsterdam, it was such an incredible learning experience, because in terms of rehearsal, like with any TV show, there's not really, like you're saying, as much as like film. You kind of like get on set, you maybe like run through it once, and then you're going to shoot it. And with New Amsterdam, they had these incredible consultants, a medical doctor, to tell us, this is exactly where you would look. This is how you would talk. This is how you would say it. But for them, it's second nature. I mean, a medical doctor, he's doing it. It's like muscle memory. So it was definitely intense, because here you are in like an operating room, and it's like, okay, look here to the this, look here to the that. All right, here we go. Let's go.
Do you find that when you're doing TV shows like that, I'm sure there's several people on set, there's probably gaffers and, I don't know, script supervisors, and, there's a lot of people that are standing around watching you do this, and, and you don't have much time to really, learn your lines, I guess. And I would imagine the stress would just be enormous to do, especially a network TV show. So did you find that to be true, especially on your first one?
I find that the more immersed I am in the character, the easier it is for me to just tune all of that out. And I also try to stay really connected to the fact that like they really don't care. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because they see it so much, and especially the people on the set, they're like, okay, lunchtime, or it's time.
Yeah,
how many more hours do we have before we can go home? Right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're not looking at it from a viewer's point of view, right? I mean, they're working basically.
And honestly, I think they're hoping you nail it. They're rooting for you so that everyone can move on.
Exactly.
Right? Because then you can get to the next setup, and then
yeah. Well, I mean, how much time do you have on set to really get to know your co-stars? I guess the people that you're working with, and because sometimes I what I'm told by a lot of people that have been on TV, that sometimes they meet their I guess their co-stars right then and there on the set before they start filming, so they don't have a time to really get that chemistry, I guess, for to who they're working with. And what was your experience like? Did you get a chance to kind of meet people beforehand, or did you just kind of get thrown in there and just they yell action and that's it?
I think you just hope that you get to have that time to like kind of at least talk to people. Every situation's so different. Like on God's Not Dead, I got to play a reporter. And my dressing room was near the other reporters. So it was like this amazing magical experience and there was these two other women, and they were just incredible. And I've really never been on a set where everyone was like just totally 100% like rooting for each other, like they were on this set. And it was this awesome experience. But I would say most of the time, especially in TV, like you're kind of walking onto set. It's like, nice to meet you. Let's go.
Yeah, right. And you said you're from Massachusetts, but do you live in LA still right now? I know you live there, but
I don't. I was in LA for 12 years, and I started out in casting. I worked in casting for a long time.
How did you get that role? Like, did you go to school for? I mean, how did you get the casting role? Just curious.
So I went to Emerson in Boston, and then I went to LA my last semester, and I had this amazing internship with Mally Finn Casting. So she cast like Titanic, all the Matrixes.
Yeah.
And she's just like amazing. And I really got sort of immersed in casting, which was incredible because I was in the room for auditions, even though I wasn't the actress in the room.
Right.
I was learning from all of it, like taking it all in.
Yeah. And you got to see the behind the scenes, like what happens when they walk out of the room, right? I mean, so you got to see it all. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and really understand just the beats of the process, which was an incredible education that as an actress in LA trying to get in the room, you're not gonna have that gift because you're not on a level where you're getting in those rooms.
Yeah.
So
are you really back in Massachusetts now?
Now I am in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. Okay. So you're in the north, you're the, New England. Okay. So
yes.
The reason I asked that, because, a lot of actors think that they have to, live and stay in LA or New York or Atlanta or wherever, all the work supposedly is, and which it is, but for the most part, but, there's a lot of actors that are, big named actors that live in the town where they either grew up or they live in small towns somewhere around the world, country. I mean, I was when I was growing up in Minnesota, we had Sam Shepard and Jessica Lange lived in a small town just south of Minneapolis. And Josh Hartnett lived in a suburb of St. Paul. And so all these people that I saw on these movies, they didn't live in LA. They lived in their hometown. And, I still think you can, if you do things the right way, I don't think you necessarily have to live in, because I've had actors like vehemently just deny what I said and said, no, you have to live in LA. You have to, because that's where all the work is. But I don't think that's true personally. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously you don't live in LA, but what are your thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah, so actually Mally Finn, who was one of my first mentors, she was really big on the fact that you become a reflection of where you live.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do as an artist and as an actress is to live in a place. So for example, when she started a movie, she would order picture books on that place so she could see what the people look like, see how they talk, see how they move. Great idea. And so she was really big for kid actors, especially that moving to LA was not the way to go because they would just become LA as they grew. Yeah. And I think with all the tax incentives, there's so many states with incredible production happening. Yeah. Massachusetts among them. I think Massachusetts still has the third best tax incentives for film production in the country.
That's right.
And so you see all these incredible projects coming to places that are not just New York and LA.
Yeah.
And for me, I have a son, so it's nice for him to get to be where he can live a normal life.
Well, talk about that, because we have to unpack that a little bit more, because I think that, the first thing I think, as I get older, I mean, I just have different thoughts about, about the business and, being in the music business. Everybody's like, well, you got to move here, you got to move there. And, so you really start to believe that. But then, as I had kids or, as I got married and had a life and, and continue to, my wife is so supportive, but, we moved to Miami for a couple of years. We this wasn't for us. We moved back to the Philadelphia area. And I think with streaming and with online auditions and, there's very few in-person auditions anymore anyway. So if you do things online, you can live anywhere. I mean, if you're willing to catch a flight, to go, I guess, to an in-person audition or to film wherever. I mean, I guess that's the downside to living somewhere other than LA or New York. But I think that you can live anywhere. If you're talented, you can live anywhere and still have a normal life. Like you said, your son is having a normal life because you live, in a nice probably town in Rhode Island, but I think that it gets saturated, in these, coastal towns like New York, LA, whatever. It's saturated with people in that business, so I don't know. I think it's great that you live there and you're raising your son there. And, so I think you can live anywhere and you're proving that you can.
And we have a farm. So
nice.
So, certainly that's tricky in New York or LA.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So. Yeah, I think, and I lived in New York City for a while too. And it's just, I mean, it starts to wear on you after a while. It really does. I mean, I love it, but it's nice because I live close enough where I could go there for the day, or if I need to do work there, I'm close, but at the same time, I'm home. We can start a fire in our fire pit in the backyard and enjoy the weather and see the stars and, and just have a short commute to work, so I love it. So it's my life has changed moving back here. So I'm so happy for you as well. But Massachusetts also, like you said, I mean, there's a lot of work there, and now New Jersey has a lot of incentives as well, which isn't that far away. It's only a couple hours from Massachusetts, maybe three at the most. So you have options where you're in driving distance to be in productions, and I know there's a lot going on in the East Coast now. So talk about some of the work that you've done, not only just the TV, but also like the short films. I see a lot of short films on here. So what's your favorite type of medium that you've done so far? And maybe if there's one that kind of stands out, what's your most, favorite, I guess, that you've done?
So I did a short film through the American Film Institute called Breathe. And it was this film about, so the American Film Institute, Mally was always really big on that. And she said, get your butt over there, get your headshot on file with them. And the directors, it's a grad program, it's producing, directing, all sorts of things, cinematography. And as they come through, they have to make these films as they learn. And it's a great way for you, being me, to learn how to be directed the right way and what it feels like. And so I don't even know if it was a thesis film, but it was an incredible experience. It was about a brother and a sister. They get in a car accident and she dies, and you see them saying goodbye, kind of in that limbo place. And I just remember working with the director and being like, I need you to get me there. I need you to help me. And he was right there. And he just started talking to me, and he was like, you have to let go. You have to let go. And it all came, and it was just this incredible experience. And I remember thinking okay, this is what it should be. This is how it should be.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you said that because, in acting school, I think one of the things, depending on what school you go to, but I think they all teach this, but there's people want to be an actor or an actress, whatever, and they go to these acting schools and they're nervous because they're maybe self-conscious, or they, insecurities are there or whatever. So they're afraid, they think they're going to look stupid, whatever they're told to do, they're going to look stupid. But to be successful, you have to be vulnerable. You have to let yourself go in certain moments. And I think that's why they have you do crazy things, during these classes. And, somebody said in one of their classes, this was a big actor that I interviewed, said that in one of their classes, they had to run around and flail their arms and scream and, and just carry on. And, just, so it was like an icebreaker, so they were able to feel more comfortable because everybody was doing it. Everybody in the class was doing it.
Yeah.
So I think you do that more and more, it's going to kind of, eliminate those insecurities, I guess, that most people have. So did you find that to be true as well? Did you do that type of stuff in your acting school?
I guess the best example of that is I did a show called Tales of the Lost Formicans by Constance Congdon, who is, very well known in New York. And this show went up actually in Western Mass. So it was hometown moment for me. And the show is about these aliens kind of looking down on Earth, and then these families. And so I was I was the main woman's best friend, the fun best friend, woo, we're out, let's go spray paint some cars together, Yeah. But then we also had to play the aliens. So that was really an experience for me to stretch and feel totally uncomfortable, but push through it and just work through it and make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that, and as you go on to do other projects, and I think more and more it's like practice, I guess, and things that, you do, if you do things enough or have those, kind of vulnerable moments enough, then eventually there, that uncomfortableness, I guess, is going to go away eventually. So to talk about this film, God's Not Dead and God We Trust. And I know it's what you said, the fifth in the franchise of that project, and talk about that project that you worked on.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm a fan of the franchise, so I've seen all of them. And when I booked it, I was so excited. Yeah. And I actually went down. So we also have a place in South Carolina. So I was down in South Carolina when I shot this, up in North Carolina, I think exactly, but in the South. And It was just awesome. Like it was the most positive, like supportive set I've ever been on. At one point, like I needed nylons or like pantyhose, and I didn't have them. And one of the other reporters, she was like, "Here, use mine." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this just never happens." Like it's like so warm and like supportive.
Yeah.
So,
well,
and actually, I didn't shoot until like really late. So, like, I think my call was like sometime around noon, and I didn't shoot this day until like later. And I had this big monologue, and the hours were starting to like go by, and I was like, I hope my brain still works at like,
and you said it comes out September 12th, right? September 12th.
Yeah, it'll be in theaters September 12th. Yes,
that's awesome. So what other kind of project do you want to work on? I mean, is there something in the pipeline right now, or is there something that you're excited to, I guess, audition for?
Yeah, so it's wild. You said like taping from home. Like, so I get so many, on average, I get like 5 auditions to tape a week.
Wow.
Which can be a little tricky depending on how long they are, because I really try to like take the time to sit with them and like take them in before I like tape them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just today I just taped one for a nurse in a film, and that was exciting because I'm actually in the medical field. So
are you?
That helps. Yes. Oh. I do like end of life care, active dying, usually taking care of people.
Yeah. Oh, well, we have to talk afterwards because I am too. So we'll talk about
that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's it's something new for me, but it's exciting. So I'm excited to hear about that. But yeah, and that's the other thing I want to talk about too, because you have a day job, I have a day job. We both do something in the entertainment field here, and I think for my listeners as well, because I think some people have some aspirations that if you become an actor or you're on TV, that you're automatically going to live in a mansion in Beverly Hills. Some people really think that, you know what I mean? And they don't realize that, it's when you're not working, you're unemployed. That's the thing with actors and directors and anybody in the entertainment industry. I mean, you might be working on a great project, but when that project's over, it's over, and it's not going to guarantee your next one. It'll help you with the process because you understand the process, but it doesn't mean you're guaranteed anything after that. Even A-list actors sometimes don't, necessarily get a job just because, because they are who they are. And, so I think it's important that people understand that when you get into this business, I interviewed this guy named Greg Pitts. He was in the Office Space. It was before The Office came out, and it was, he played a really funny part in there, but he was telling me that, his advice was to, when people first started in being an actor, he said, get a job, get a regular job, live a normal life and do acting on the side, but have a normal life, get insurance in your job and whatever you do, just live a normal life, because it's going to make the grind of being an actor much more tolerable, and just hopefully you have a flexible boss and somebody who will allow you to go shoot for a couple of weeks somewhere. But I thought that was great advice, that just to be a normal person and just have normalcy around you, and I think it's important.
And also, like, I think a lot of people think I'm acting, and when I act, I'm so interesting. And really, it's gotten like so competitive that you're not even acting. You are sharing your life and who you are in that moment in this character. So if you're not leading a normal life where you have kids you take care of and you have a job that you feel fulfilled in,
right, you
really don't have much to share once someone shines a camera on you.
Right. Exactly. Right. That's true. But again, I like to hear that. I like to hear when people, have like, 'cause I've worked with Grammy winners that have day jobs. And, again, I just think I just don't want people to have this wrong impression, I guess, of what because I think sometimes when they look at Instagram, and which I think is a downside of Instagram or social media, when, people post these beautiful pictures at the Four Seasons or wherever they are, or the Beverly Hills Hotel, at an event, or, it basically shows that, it's not all true. It's smoke and mirrors a lot of times where, it's not when the camera turns off, it's, it's like they're going back home to their 1-bedroom apartment, wherever, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just one of those things that I think it's kind of, shining the wrong light, I think sometimes on the entertainment industry. And I think sometimes like people like you, like the real people that, when they talk about it publicly like this, that you have a regular job like myself. And it's, I think it's important that people know that, to have realistic expectations when they get into this industry, because it's not easy. It's not an easy industry. As you have 5, auditions a week, and how many people have auditions after auditions after auditions, and the same people are going after those same auditions. Think about it. And, if you don't have the right look or whatever they want, it's going to be a no, so eventually you get those yeses, and you've gotten several yeses. So that's motivation right there for people that are listening to keep going and don't quit, because you're definitely going to get a yes eventually if you don't stop working. Right.
Yeah, I also think like when you think of it as like almost a hobby and you have a real life, it totally takes the pressure of an age timeline off.
Yeah.
Because I know when I was 22, I thought, well, I'm going to be a movie star by the time I'm 26. Like, this is all on track, know?
Right, right. Yeah.
But I see just as a person how much more interesting I've gotten and able to bring that to the characters as I'm aging.
Yeah.
And to me, I never would have foreseen the incredible opportunities that have come since I haven't been in my 20s.
Right.
And
you can handle the set a lot more too. I think things that happen on the set, again, that's something that people think is glamorous. And I've been on sets before as an extra where I've seen, almost fist fights that happen between the crew. I mean, it's crazy what you see and what occurs. And it's like, it's not all glamorous, and very little glamour, honestly. And, and it's, again, you have to have realistic expectations, and they're long days, and you could be working I don't know what the union rules are right now, but I mean, I was on set for 12 hours one time, and I still didn't even get, on camera. It was with the rest of the extras, for 12 hours, and I didn't get paid anything. So, so I think, again, realistic expectations are important in this business. So just, please, don't think that it's all glamour and it's not all red carpets. And, but that's why when you do a premiere or you do get nominated for something, that's why it's such an amazing feat to get to something like that, because it is so hard. And you think about some of the famous people out there that haven't even been nominated for anything, and they're famous, it's like, so you just keep grinding, and, eventually, something will pay off, but you can't just quit.
Yeah. And I think like being authentic to yourself and knowing what you do and not compromising on that, which is harder the younger you are, in my experience. So like you said, I found with age a little bit more of an understanding of like what I do and how it fits.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's so important to talk about what we're talking about right now, especially for my audience. But what's that one role, I guess, that's out there that you've always wanted to, like a dream role? Like what is the one thing that you really want to do?
Oh my God, like a dream role. Well, obviously I love Ben Affleck, right? Woo, Boston. And I did have a neat opportunity. I had a great audition for Gone Baby Gone when I was like 24.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I think in my mind, I feel like Ben and I have unfinished business. Like I would love to play something with him in some like heist movie. Like that would be my dream.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, why not? I think he did that one in Boston. Oh, so what was it? It's a town, Charlestown, I think it is. There's a town across from Boston. Yeah, The Town. Yeah, that was an amazing movie, but I didn't realize that was true. That town, I guess, had the most, bank robberies in the history or something. I don't know.
Really? I didn't know that either.
Yeah, because of how the size of the town, but it had the most bank robberies per year than any town in the country or something. It was pretty crazy stuff. But yeah, it was a good movie. But yeah, but he's a good actor. I mean, really like Ben Affleck. So, I could see that being definitely a dream role for you. What kind of advice do you have for my listeners, now that you've been, you've done network TV shows and you've been in this movie here and some of the other work that you've done in theater. So what kind of advice would you have for somebody?
I guess I would say just like get to know yourself and let go of your idea of how it's going to happen for you. Because if you keep going, it will happen, but it may not look the way that you think it will. So just like stay open and just keep going. Keep going.
I mean, is there one thing that you've done in your career that you wish you would have done differently?
I wish I would have paced myself and understood in my 20s. Like, listen, we're going to be looking at like decades here. Like, so just calm down. Pace yourself. I mean, I was fortunate when I worked for Mally. She said to me, like, listen, you don't have to make it at 19. You don't have to make it at 19. And of course, I thought she was wrong and I was going to make it at like 25.
Right.
But like, I think that's the thing. Just keep going and let go of the expectation of how it will happen. And then it will happen. Yeah,
that's great. And, and a lot of times people that, some people don't even start acting until they're in their 40s or 50s even. I mean, sometimes, they've lived their life, the kids are out of the house, they've done, they're close to maybe retirement or not long, and they're looking for things to do. And sometimes they pick up maybe some local community theater, plays or musicals, and they get the bug, and then they start auditioning and get bigger roles. And I mean, there's a lot of people out there that happens to like that. So like you said, there's no timeline on anything. I mean, there's places for anybody, to act and, sing or whatever you want to do. It's like, it's never too late. But I think the worst thing is to not try something and regret it than to try it and fail at it or not have it become a career. But I think as long as you try something and at least give it a good shot, I think that's the most important thing.
And I feel like I've learned a lot from my failures. I mean, I've been auditioning for like 20 years and I love to follow up and see who got the part that I didn't get.
Yeah.
So that I can learn from it and I can understand, okay, all right, it just my look wasn't right or, or they have more credits than me or like, it's almost like being an athlete, actually.
Yeah, you're right. It is. I mean, and a lot of times people get, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they chose that person over me, but it might just not be the right look. It's like when you're casting and more than anybody in the casting world that, maybe it's not the look you're looking for. They might be talented, but it might not be the right look for the project, and it's not going to be right for the story. You can't cast that person. But also, as I want to ask you this because this is important. You're in the casting world, and we talk about this on a lot of shows. But I think when I interviewed Chris Kirkpatrick, we talked about this a lot because he said that they would go into these arenas and whatever, and they would treat like the person selling their merchandise or the janitor, working that they ran into at the arena, just as well as like the person who was a head of the record company bringing all their rich clients to the show, and then you never know who that person's going to be down the road. I mean, as a casting person yourself, I mean, the person that's working the front desk or the receptionist might be the casting director someday in that company. You just never know. So talk about the importance of treating people, in the casting room, with respect, in the industry, because I think a lot of people take it for granted and a lot of people don't, unfortunately, treat people professionally, unless they're like the casting director or the director or the producer. So talk about the importance of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is so vital to the process, and certainly anybody who's taking the time to like help me hold my space in the room and understand the script, they always have a better understanding. They've read the whole script, which I don't always have that privilege. And I just think I try to approach everyone with an open heart and open mind, because you never know like what you're going to learn from anyone.
That's true. Absolutely. Everybody has wisdom no matter what they do. When it's all said and done, Valerie, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to walk away with when they hear Valerie Vaile?
I guess just how much I do to help people. Like that's a big thing for me, being of service. Like as I've like moved forward in my career, and I'm always excited to like talk to anyone young who's excited and just kind of share whatever I can, because I think there's so much wisdom that comes with age.
Yeah,
and
true.
The people that made the biggest difference for me were like Mally, older mentors who took the time to help me, and it just made such a big difference for me in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Well, great to have you on the show, Valerie. And God's Not Dead, In God We Trust, coming out September 12th. So make sure everybody goes and sees that, and best of luck with that. And again, great to have you on the show, and can't wait to have you back sometime.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dave.